Alright, so before I begin this review for Food Wars, I just want to say, Erina, I see what you're doing right here. Okay. What's up, everyone? My name is Ranger Flame, and welcome everyone to Food Wars Season 3, Episode 14, or Season 4, Episode 2, whatever you want to call it. Man, that is still really confusing to me of how they did it that way, because legit, it's like a new season, but you guys get my point. So for today's episode, man, just the second half of Season 3, I don't know, like, we're 2 episodes in. I don't want to jinx this, I don't want to go down this road, but how they're doing it right now with the anime, these 2 episodes so far, I have enjoyed the hell out of it. Like, I don't know why, it has these types of episodes where if they keep doing this over and over and over again, this will probably be the best season of Food Wars in my opinion. Going with the manga readers though, I don't know if this is going to be like the best arc that we've seen so far if you've read it, or just like the best arc, you know, in Food Wars that it has for the anime right now. I'm not really too sure, but I am just liking it a lot. I read a little bit out of this part, which I will explain in this episode, because legit, what I read, it was put into this episode. It was actually really well done, but there's a big thing I will talk about. But first, in this kind of review, I want to talk about Erina's father, Azumi. I think that's how you say his name correctly. You know, he is the leader of Totsuki now. He is the king. He is the principal of the school, and we see in this episode that he teaches the other students of Totsuki the proper way of cooking. And if you look at it, this is the cooking that he kind of explained to Erina when she was a child, and now he's doing it to the rest of the people at Totsuki. The big thing that you look at in today's episode is he legit made the rest of the Totsuki students his own, or made them zombies if you call them that. And the thing that you look at that's so big, and you know, a really big important thing of Food Wars, is he's literally making them mind controlled. You know, he's taking away the proper way of, you know, cooking, going into the school, which, you know, Erina's grandfather, or even Asumi's, you know, father, showed to the students that if you have fun with it, you can create something special. And he's literally taking that all away from these other students that we actually seen throughout here. And in this episode, when we get, you know, the first challenge of, you know, the train arc that we're going for, or these advancement, you know, exams, we see the rest of the students say, no, he said it this way and this properly, because, you know, Central is taking over Totsuki. You know, their way of cooking is a lot different than the original Totsuki way. You have to make food more proper and secure, and since he taught them that, you know, eventually the rest of the teachers will agree with it, because this is Aizuma's cooking, but, you know, it's the students making it instead. You know, it's kind of a younger version of him, or even just more of him in general. So that was the big part in today's episode that I thought, and we get that in this episode, that we have Central or Totsuki versus the Rebels right now. And we know the Rebels, which is Polar Star, you know, Dormitory, with Erina plus, you know, her cousin. We have the Aladini brothers and Mota, if that's her name. So it's literally them against Central and Totsuki at this point. That's kind of what Food Wars is going to, which I'm really happy about. But either way, we'll get to the part of the train arc now. So the advanced, you know, exams have, you know, come there. It's here. We get to the train arc, or the advancement exams, which the advancement exams takes place in, you know, if I'm saying that right, it's an island that's close to Japan. And what it is they travel all around it, you know, throughout stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, etc., until they get to the final. And it's mostly just built for first years. So usually they of course fly to the island and go on train from here on out. And like I said before, you know, going into this, Central wants to take care of the Rebels. You know, wants to, you know, eliminate the Rebel team as best as they can. But more, you know, kind of in this as well, as I talked about in last week's episode, is Erina's more character development throughout all of this. And the one big thing that I think I didn't say in last week's episode is that we seen in this episode is that Erina is like being, you know, the students kind of master, and what Central Central actually wants, because knowing her, she traveled around the world learning different ingredients, and she knows the ingredients exactly of what they are going towards. So she wants to get them prepared, because knowing what Central wants to do to Totsuki is really strict. You know, if you fail one of these challenges, you will be expelled, and they're going to go harsh on them and try to eliminate each and single one of them. So, you know, Erina, with, you know, kind of her teaching right here, is helping the Polar Star Dormery, you know, pass, like learn different ingredients. Like there's one thing in here which they're learning of a potato, 50 varieties that are grown throughout this island. So special things like that for each different individual food that they are going to make going towards, you know, these advancements or the exams, is, you know, to prepare them more. Because the big thing that we see with Erina's character, you know, throughout, you know, this part of Food Wars, is she looks at the Polar Star Dormery as a real family, which she really hasn't had. You know, she had her grandfather, she had her cousin, but when it got to that point when it was little, her father shattered all those, you know, mail that her cousin Alice was trying to send to her, because that was her promise, but her father ripped all those up so she would stay away from family and focus on cooking, you know, to use her god ton. And really, she didn't have anyone like this, you know, to care for her, to be part of something that she's never really had. And she wants to give back, you know, to the Polar Star Dormery, that they could defeat Central and that they could actually have fun with cooking, which we saw Soma, you know, give light to her, you know, finally after a very long time. So we see her teachings, you know, in this episode. And the one thing I'm saying about the manga right here that I did read was, in this episode, we definitely see the Erina X Soma, you know, kind of ship. Like the ship sailed. This episode was full of that, which I definitely enjoy. But you look at Food Wars as well, is it's not really an anime, you know, for shipping. You know, there's different ships of Soma X this, Soma X that, you know, everything like that. But it's one of those anime where they're not going to do it until maybe the final episode or something like that. Example, Naruto, which he got with Hinata. I feel like that's what we're going to have for Food Wars right here. It's not going to be a long time, but we definitely see a big thing in this episode with Soma X Erina fans, if you are out there. And the thing I'm talking about, the manga, which we see, you know, Soma go into the room when Erina's on her computer. You know, she's spending, you know, day and night, you know, trying to help the Polar Star Dormeries out, and Soma's just giving her advice like, hey, get some sleep or take a bath or something like that to relax. And, you know, she's stressing that she wants, you know, these other, you know, students to survive and to still be here. And we get that moment, which if you read the manga, I'll post it up on the screen, like images of the anime to the manga, which is really different, which we get more of a big ship part, which wasn't part of it. But you look at it as well, the anime is different from manga all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes, you know, some animes really stick to it. But, you know, in this part, I would say it bugged me just a little bit, but they did get the other part right in the finale of the episode, of which I will get to. But going back, we see the students have finally arrived on the island and their first challenge has begun. For the first round, there's one dish that has to be paired. The teachers or the staff randomly pick, you know, 5 people to be part of a team to make a certain dish. And we see that in this episode with Soma's group, someone else, and etc. And their first dish that they get is salmon. And we see, you know, in this episode that Central really does want to get rid of the rebel team, because knowing from Erina's father that taught the kids at Totsuki go into this and know what kind of dish and how the salmon actually needs to be prepared for them to pass. And we see that in this episode that they are zombies saying, hey, he said this, he said that. And we see, you know, from Soma's group that they're struggling because, you know, the salmon that they got is not really good. You know, it's during the fall time. You know, the salmon loses its flavor. It doesn't have any good taste, which we see that from Kirokiba. If I'm saying his name correctly, I feel bad that if I do, because he is the fish expert. So they do a new technique, and it's a really cool part of this because Erina's teachings help the Polar Star Dormery pass the first test. Even though the ingredients I talked about in this review was a potato or whatever, we've seen Soma in this episode saying that, Erina said something about this because she traveled around the world, tasting different dishes, knowing what's what, and her teachings let Polar Star Dormitory pass the first test. And we know from Central that they are strict at making these dishes. They are making it really difficult and literally just expelling these kids for no reason. But they do pass the first test due to Erina's teaching. We see that in this episode with Alice, with them doing the brine freezing, technique, which freezes time so that the fish, the salmon, has all the flavors still in it. The cells don't break apart, and it's a perfectly good salmon for them to pass the test. And it's a cool thing because we look at, like I said, Erina's character, always caring about herself, but since she looks at the Polar Star Dormitory as family, there we go, the Polar Star Dormitory passed the first test and destroys Central. When you look at the Totsuki train arc now that is happening at the end of the episode, we see them go on to Central's, train. This is a big train that the students are going to be in if they do pass each test, going into the final part. And we get this the awkward moment in this episode. And I figured I have to talk about it in this review because if I can go watch this now over and over again, it's literally just awkward and hilarious that one of the Aldini brothers, I forget his name, goes into Erina's room and is like, hey, go look at the sky, it's beautiful outside. And then it gets like that awkward moment, which I find funny. If you watch the episode, you know what I'm talking about. I just thought, the comedy and Food Wars is great as well. I'm kind of glad that we did, because this episode, if you look at it, was a little bit deep and kind of serious for the Polar Star Dormitory to not get expelled. So I'm glad we kind of had a moment like that. But in this part of, the ending of this episode was we get, each, like not all the students, but some of the students go to Erina's room saying, hey, here's some tea, look at the sky outside, there's a spa, in, the train. And we see that from Soma saying that to her, in this episode, that they're thanking you for teaching them this, because if you haven't teach them what they've done, during this test, they would have been expelled. So that's a big thing, in, Erina's teachings right here, because she was a little bit strict and she was saying this and that, but at the end of the day, she helped them and they passed the test for them to go further, during these exams. So that was today's episode of Food Wars. We also get that big moment as well, that Erina is really showing feelings towards Soma, because even though she did have a crush on his father, which is weird, but we see it now that her feelings are really changing for Soma. When we watch season 1, 2, or even 3, or it's still continuing on out 3, that she wanted, Soma gone. She wanted him expelled. She didn't want to see, his dumb face. But now just looking at him and hearing him out, she has changed, her feelings for Soma. And that's a big part right there. Soma x Erina shippers. There you go. And that was, I guess, today's episode of Food Wars. I really enjoyed it. It really focused on the big dynamic in this episode that the Rebels are going against Central. Like I said, the route that Food Wars is going down, I am really happy about it. If they just keep continuing episodes like this, it is going to be the best season of Food Wars. Even though it's continuing off season 3, just this other half, I feel like just a season of it in general is the best season, to date. But I hope that you guys all enjoyed it. This episode here today, guys, I feel like it does deserve an 8.5 out of 10. It's an episode I feel like you could truly watch. You could be happy about it. You could be laughing about it. And just, watch it all the way through and just keep watching it over and over again. So I'm excited for, another Sunday of Food Wars. I cannot wait. It sucks that we only be getting, 13 episodes of this series, which I'm hoping to do 24 soon for like a next season or something like that. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Comment down below what your favorite part today of Food Wars was. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And please leave a like. That would be great. But I'll see you guys next Sunday, though, for another Food Wars review.